everyone. Welcome to week 19 of Reasons to Hope. This week, we're going to talk about fear. There are so many things that I'm afraid of. And as I start to look at my fears and ask myself, what is it that I'm afraid of? I realize that there's something on the other side of fear that looks a whole lot like hope. So I want to talk about hope and fear today. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. It's so good to see you. And I want to do an exercise if you'll join me in this. I've given some workshops, and if we take a post-it note, one post-it note for a fear that we have about our future, and one post-it note for a hope that we have about our future, we write it down and then we stick it up on the wall. And I started to notice a pattern. So if you will all take a moment and just jot down one hope you have for your future and one fear you have for your future. You can throw it in the comments to share with each other because it's super encouraging to hear sometimes what our fears are, because we realize that we share the similar fears, and then also what our hopes are. You can drop those in the chat or write them down on a post-it note. I'm going to share some of mine with you right now. So one of my big fears is that I will move so fast through my life that I won't actually experience it, that I won't actually be present. So that I will miss the life that I've been given. And then one of my big hopes for my life is that I will be present and 100% alive. I also am really afraid of getting blood work done because my dad got cancer at this age, so I'm afraid of cancer. But I'm really hopeful that I will continue to be healthy, and I'm so grateful for the health that I've been given. So, do you see my point? I'm not seeing any of your fears and hopes, but I have a feeling that you can relate. There's an interesting thing about fear if we don't freak ourselves out over it. And one of my favorite verses in the Old Testament is in Joshua 1. And basically what's happened is the Israelites were finally brought out of slavery in Egypt by Moses. And they go wandering through the desert, and so many miracles occur, and they see God come through for them time and time again. And then they get to the Jordan. They're about to cross over into the promised land, and Moses dies. And Joshua is suddenly supposed to take this entire nation across a river into a whole new world, a whole new future. And I feel like if I were Joshua at that point, I would be suffering from such intense imposter syndrome, which I totally do all the time in my own small life. But if I were responsible for taking an entire people group into full liberation, I think it would be super terrifying. And God, in that moment, anticipates Joshua's fears, and he says, don't worry about it. And he says, be strong and courageous. Have I not commanded you? For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And then as he's giving him instructions, he says it 4 more times. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So he knows that we're going to be afraid, but he also knows that there's something bigger and something far surpasses anything that we might be fearful of. I love, Jess, you said, I'm going to read your comments here. Hope makes an impact. Hope that you'll make an impact. Fear that you'll miss signs when you're given opportunities. I can so relate to that. So relate to that. Isn't that interesting that the flip side of your fear is your hope? And so I think this week, as we're looking at fear, and there's so many ways to look at fear, and I think we have 33 more weeks together of writing the book of hope. And I have a feeling we'll be talking about fear a lot because there's many different approaches to living with fear. But what I would like to encourage us to do this week is to actually just look at it. Just ask yourself, what am I afraid of? And what is it really, truly? When I ask myself that question, what is the essence of my fear? Okay, if it's something like a meeting you have on Friday, or an interview, or an obligation, or maybe you're afraid that you're just not enough and you're going to disappoint people. I think that every single day. What is it about that is so terrifying? And am I going to allow that to teach me that there's a hope on the other side of that, that there's something that I long for or desire or could step into that's actually far bigger than that tiny sort of fear. Because the other thing about fear is, 90% of the time, what we're afraid of doesn't actually happen. It doesn't occur. And our fears are there as indicators. They're there to sort of give us an idea. I mean, biologically, they were programmed to show us like, hey, you might not want to step on that because you could die, or, you don't want to go in that direction because remember, you're going over here. Fear can be an indicator. And I think if we give ourselves the space and the grace and the courage that we have, each of us in our hearts, to actually look at our fears, and instead of being terrified by them, find in them some sort of wisdom, that they want to teach us something, they want to tell us something. And the reason I am thinking about all of this is because we just released a new episode of Our Story, Our Song with Andrew Ripp, and he has a beautiful song called Jericho, which some of you may have heard. It's been sitting at #1 for a few weeks this year. I think it was in the Billboard top charts for like 32 weeks or something. And you know why? Because we can all relate to feeling afraid. And there is an incredible story in the Old Testament about Jericho, and I'm not gonna spoil it here. I'm gonna let you go and watch the episode with Andrew because he talks about why he wrote that song and the way that he sees fear, which is a really unique perspective that he's drawing from the story of Joshua and Jericho. So basically, there's a lot to learn from the book of Joshua and what's happening there with the Israelites and their history. But for us, I just say this week, as we write the book of hope together, let's remember that we've been doing this for 19 weeks. We have been training our brain to recognize reasons to hope and to find occasions of gratitude. So we were absolutely prepared to walk with fear and to ask ourselves, what is it that we're really afraid of? What is on the flip side of that? It's our hope. It's hope, it's longing, it's belonging. I love John O'Donohue says that prayer is the bridge from longing to belonging. And he goes on later to say that we want to be, he says, be your longing. What we all long for is this sense of belonging, this sense of security, this sense of courage in the face of fear. So let's live with our fears this week. And we will continue to explore ways that fear can teach us. There's so many beautiful traditions and so many beautiful verses in the Bible. But right now, just remember that fear is here as one of the many things that can guide us along the way, but it is not the thing. It does not have the last word. Hope gets the last word. We're going to flip the script on our fears this week. And I just want to thank you all again for joining us. Go to rootandvinenews.com to check out Andrew's new episode. You can also see the story that I wrote today on hope and fear. And of course, always just tag us at Root and Vine News, #Reasons to Hope, to help continue to encourage this community to grow together in writing the book of hope. Thank you so much. I will see you all next Monday at 3 o'clock. Blessings.